Hey everybody, it's Coach Tori and this is Raising Runners. Today I wanted to talk about ways that I incorporate empowerment or just really the foundations of some of our practices to keep all of our runners' minds healthy, how we incorporate that into our running program and what some of that is. So, the first thing I wanted to start with is discussing our age groups. So, typically we have runners starting as young as ages 3 and going all the way up to 13. The reason we have that age group is obviously 3 is pretty young, but those kids can run, have some endurance because they already are running around at home all the time. So it's a good age to start introducing them to running. And then we stop at 13 typically because at that age kids are, if they're passionate about running, often they are getting into a sport in their school or a more competitive club, and that is just not what we're doing at this time. So that is why we have that age group. For our club, we don't have to have kids with any experience running or any fitness experience. We can have anybody come out. They don't have to be even able to run down their driveway. We can do all abilities. We're very inclusive, so we have had kids that have different kind of diagnoses that may be developmental delays or intellectual disabilities or something of that nature too. So really we take anybody who has an interest in learning about what we're about. They can come to one of our clubs. Obviously, we try to keep the age groups somewhat more concise, so we're not having 3-year-olds running with 13-year-olds because that just does not make sense. We usually break off into 3-year-olds to 5-year-olds, and then we have 6+. Also, the first thing to know about our clubs is everything can be pretty individualized, so it's not all going to be the same. Not every practice is going to be cookie cutter. If you go to this location versus this age group versus this class, we can adapt to kind of the group and locations and kind of where everybody's at. So things are going to be different always, but this is just going through an overview of the ideas and how I write our practice plans, kind of where all that is stemming from. So again, it's not like an exact every time you come to week 4 of our practice, this is what you're going to learn. But just kind of going over our general ideas and our philosophies with that. So without further ado, the first thing that we talk about, and this is always, always, always the first lesson we give to the kids when we're talking about empowerment, and that is power words. I guess I should back up though. When we're talking about empowerment, we're talking about really helping the kids gain confidence, believe in themselves, feel like they can speak up and take ownership of what they're doing and their impact in the world, on a team, all that kind of stuff. So really just helping them feel like they're capable of doing anything because they are, and also feeling like they're in control of themselves as well. So the first thing I said is power words. When we're talking to the kids, power words are words that make you feel powerful. They're words that give you the power to overcome hard things. And that sometimes they will come up with the words that I've already come up with. Sometimes they come up with interesting or different ones, or obviously some of them will like to say ones that they know don't apply. So words I like to use are strong, brave, bold, mighty, fierce, focused, determined, powerful, capable. Those are a lot of the ones that I pick. I know there's other ones. The other day we had a group talking about it. They picked ones like courageous. Someone said super. I think someone said like a made up word like calabunga, supercalifra, whatever. But if that's what makes them feel powerful today, fine. For the littler kids, we usually stick to some of our smaller words. Again, they're not reading them, but words that they're able to say. Determined sometimes is a little difficult, so we'll pick strong, bold, brave. Those ones are always good. And then we obviously have to teach the kids how to use them because a lot of them have been exposed to those words, but that doesn't mean they know what they actually can do with them and how powerful those words can be. So We talk about them. We tell the kids, the easiest way to use these words is to put them in a sentence. I am strong. And we can use that all the time. There's been research that says changing it to you are strong and saying it to yourself that way. And I let the kids pick whichever way they want to. I personally like saying I, because I feel like that is me cheering myself on. And that's just my preference. But again, they can pick you are strong, or you can do it, or I am strong and I can do it. So we tell them those are the sentences that we can use. We give them an example, like if we're running a mile and we feel that it's really hard, or a hill comes up and we think this is too much for me, we're going to say things like, no, I am strong, I can do it, I am brave, right? We also try to give them real world examples. So not real world, because obviously running is real world, but give them examples they can use outside of running. So a lot of them, all of them are pretty much in school or some kind of school-like thing. So we talk about how they can use it in class if something's really hard for them, if they're doing homework and it becomes challenging. No, I am brave, I can do this. Or if they're having an issue with a classmate. So we try to give them other examples of how they can use it so they know that these principles apply to a lot of different aspects of their life, not just running. So we talk about that. If they want to come up with their own words, they can. We practice saying them. I try to have all the kids say them like, I am strong, with enthusiasm and gusto, and, really putting emphasis into the sentences. I try not to have them say things like, I am strong, because later we get to how posture and mood are also going to affect how we feel. So trying to really make it enthusiastic and believable for them. But there are kids who, some of them don't like to talk, so I'm not going to force them to yell, I am strong. But again, the general message is we should really be feeling the words and saying them like we mean them, because we do. And then we'll do an activity where we are practicing. Usually it's short sprints. Depending on the group, we can make them longer sprints, but we are going and we are retrieving power words from the field, bringing them back. And every time we bring them back, we are yelling, I am, and whatever the power word is. So that gives them practice, not only sprinting and making it fun, because now it's a game, but also they're practicing using these words while they're doing something that can be challenging. And sometimes we'll have to do this activity multiple times. And by the third time they're doing it, it definitely feels hard to have to run out into the field and keep running back and doing that as fast as you can. So we're not only giving them tools, but we're showing them how to use it and giving them real examples, but it's also fun. So power words really are one of my favorite lessons that we teach the kids, because we end up using it the entire time they're at Run Club. And again, it's super simple, so they can use it everywhere they go. And the other great thing about this empowerment principle is it's not something that's too complex. So we do have some ideas later on that, it's really more geared towards our older runners, but this is something that totally works for our younger group as well. And they often are going home and they're going to say, I am strong, or they're going to tell their parents what they learned today was, I am strong. So it's really nice that it can be for everybody, and it's not something that's too complicated to teach. And it's a great intro because we are using it throughout the entire time, and then they can use it when they're outside of Run Club. So power words are great, and they also are helping us learn how to speak positively about ourselves. So with power words, we are learning to speak positively about ourselves, which transitions into positive thoughts. And that is another thing we teach our runners. And usually that is going to be something right after power words. So it really is building onto the idea. They've already kind of done it, right? So they're going to be practicing running and saying things like, I am strong, I am brave, I am determined. And now we're going to remind them that that is a positive thought. So positive thoughts don't have to be power words, but it's really useful to use power words when we're trying to say a positive thought to ourselves. But then we tell them other things that could count, and they also can come up with these on their own, are things like, it is possible, I can do it. Those are the two I can think of right now, but I know the kids come up with a bunch of other ones. So, I mean, and it could be anything. It doesn't have to be something that specific also, or actually it could be more specific. Like it's a nice day outside, or I slept enough today, or I'm having a great day, right? Just anything positive. And we usually pair that with talking about our mood and how when we're running, the way we feel is going to affect our posture. But I'm not going to get too into all of our running principles right now. I just wanted to talk about the empowerment part. So we talk about positive thoughts and when we can use those, obviously, when things are getting tough, but we also talk to the kids about comfort zones. And I don't use the term growth zones often because I feel like we're starting to get into too many things. But I just tell them that it's when they're getting out of their comfort zone. That's when they're learning to grow. That's when they're able to do more. And that's when we're going to use our positive thoughts, because when we get out of our comfort zones, we often experience doubt. And so another thing about our empowerment principles is we have to be realistic, right? I can't just say, guys, just be positive. You have to be positive all the time. But I have to tell them that there are going to be times that you don't feel positive, right? So you're learning something new. You're not sure you can do it. You're going to start thinking, I don't know if I can do this. This might be too hard. I'm not ready. And that's when you're going to have to recognize that's a doubt. That makes sense. I'm growing, but I can use a positive thought to help me overcome this. So that's when you're going to say, I am ready. I can do this. I am strong. I can overcome any obstacle. So trying to really make that something that makes sense to them. And again, it doesn't always, sometimes it's hard to recognize when you're coming out of your comfort zone. They might also confuse that with just like, I don't like doing something, so I feel like I don't like this. So we often relate it to, each year you usually go to a new classroom. Sometimes you feel uncomfortable because you don't know what you're doing yet. You don't know where you're going. You might not know your teacher. You might not know your friends. There's lots of new things, but you go to a new classroom so you can learn new things and you can grow. So you experience all this doubt, but it's helping you become better and do more. You don't want to stay in whatever grade or your old classroom forever because you're not going to learn anything new. So trying to help them have, a real life example that most of them have been able to go through. And then again, reminding them about positive thoughts. So we also turn that into a game. Usually, we have a couple different games we do for this, but we have them understand that doubt's going to feel really uncomfortable, but we can change that to feel more comfortable by thinking a positive thought. So oftentimes, most kids aren't going to tell you, yes, sprinting a whole bunch is super comfortable, right? No, once you're sprinting a lot, you're going to get out of breath. So sprinting is the doubt. Walking or taking a break or getting a drink of water or even slowing down, that's going to be your positive thought. So turning that into a fun game where they end up practicing more like interval running. So they're sprinting and then they're taking a break and then they're sprinting and then they're taking a break. And again, putting it into some real life examples. So they're feeling really uncomfortable. They're running really fast. They really, really want to break. And then they think, I'm strong. But then they also get that break. So they are feeling the immediate physical effects of positive thoughts feel good. So again, trying to help instill in their brains that we really need to think positively about ourselves so that we're able to overcome the doubt. So that's another great thing that ties in with the power words, which is why it's awesome that we teach power words first so that we're able to use them when we talk about doubt. And again, it's always fun when we can make these empowerment lessons into a really obvious running exercise, because you'll see later sometimes a lot of them are more of a stretch, trying to really connect the two. But again, interval running is great. I don't think anybody is going to tell you it's not helpful to do interval running. Well, I'm sure somebody will tell you that, but interval running is great. And it's nice to be able to have them practice without saying, all right, guys, we're going to run 30 seconds and then you're going to slow down and you're going to run fast 30 seconds and you're going to slow down, because most kids are not going to think that's super fun. So make it a game, learn something new. Everybody wins. Along with our positive thoughts, we do talk about mood, and I had mentioned that already, and how the way we feel is going to affect the way we are moving. And we do try to tie that in when we are doing, our positive thought intro and doing those interval running and things like that. We try to talk about our running posture, but also kind of just our posture in the world, right? And it's always fun. I think it's always fun to practice feeling certain emotions and really being mindful of that and how that looks and how that, not just feels emotionally, but how that feels physically in your body. And then being able to let that go. So it's another fun mindfulness activity that we get to do with the kids, where we talk about different emotions and then trying to move with that emotion, and then ultimately ending on a positive, happy emotion, how relaxed that feels. So we talk about, our running posture, how that should look, where, our back is straight, we're looking where we're going, we're trying to be light on our feet, we're going in a forward direction, our chest is leading the way, and we're relaxed. We don't want to be clenched because that's wasting energy. And we get later on, as we go through our practices, we do start to talk about ways that, we're wasting energy when we're running, but we briefly touch on it with being stressed and clenched. That's going to waste energy, and that's not how we want to run. So we practice a little bit of posture, but then we talk about, okay, when we are happy, and oftentimes I'll have them practice smiling. They don't have to do this all the time, but you smile, you feel happy. There's, for years and years and years, I've talked about how fake smiling can actually lead to positive emotions and things like that. So we have them smile. They practice feeling happy, thinking positive, happy thoughts, and how relaxed they're running. And almost always the kids run with great running posture when they're happy. Sometimes they confuse happy for silly, but that's a different thing. But we also have them practice, okay, try to be angry. What does angry look like? What does angry feel like? And we go through those things, sad, tired, anxious. Sometimes it's a little complicated depending on the age. What other, we do silly, we do excited. Trying to think of the other fun ones, but we've done a bunch of different ones. I like to ask the kids for their example of emotions we can do, because it's always fun to think of, what emotions or what feelings do they have in their minds that they either feel often or know of or don't, like to have. So it's fun to get to practice that. It's also fun to see how each of them portrays those emotions. But I always try to end, and often if I'm calling out which emotion they're going to run with, I try to do happy more than anything else, so that they are practicing, obviously we want to keep things positive, but they're also practicing that good running posture. I don't want them to end on remembering what running angry felt like, where they're hunched over and their fists are clenched and they're making a grimace on their face or something. That's not really what I want to be promoting. So trying to have them remember running happy. It doesn't always have to be a smile, definitely not a forced smile, but that keeps you relaxed, and is going to keep your running posture the way it should be. And again, I like to incorporate mindfulness, because I don't think, especially me as a child, I don't think that's ever anything people talked about. Not something I understood, still something now that I definitely have to practice being present. But I think it's great for the kids to be, to tune into themselves for a little bit, but they also don't have to do that for too long. It can be a pretty quick activity, so they're not, using all that mental energy as well when they're just supposed to be having fun and learning to run. That's going to be the end for today. Coming up, we're going to be talking about integrity, resilience, goal setting, teamwork. We're also going to get into any relevant running news, anything about mental health in sports. And then, of course, we're going to try to keep diving into youth sport burnout and things that we can do to help with that. And also just, sport culture in general, because as you will see, I'm very passionate about running, but also passionate about our future generations and passionate about mental health. So I can't wait to talk about it more.